his hand, introduced himself, and he told me he was a big fan of the National Rifle Association. Over the years, we'd run into each other at different events across the country, and he always had sincere, kind words to share, along with a warm smile and a hearty handshake. Little did I know the powerful future role he would play in defending the Second Amendment, the United States of America, and our right to self-defense. It started right to all of us about his dedication to preserving the Second Amendment and our rights. From there, he went toe-to-toe with the media elites on a daily basis, exposing their left-leaning bias and giving voice to our freedom. A little later on, there he was nominating over 230 judges to the courts, including 3 to the Supreme Court of the United States. Good, honorable men and women who respect the Bill of Rights and the Constitution. And who could forget when he came back to see us again just a few years ago and officially removed America's signature from the United Nations Gun Ban Treaty right here at our Leadership Forum. He promised us he'd protect our freedom. He kept that promise. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming fellow NRA member and the 45th President of the United States of America, Donald J. Trump.
Okay, testing the audio. There we go. Okay, the microphone is on. Welcome, George Bush. President Trump, the former president, the one-term president, who was voted out of office by the American people, and 81 million people were in on the conspiracy, but nobody can figure out how it actually worked. You can watch the movie about it, 2000 Fools. He's about to speak at the NRA Convention. Trump took $30 million from the NRA in 2016. They were his biggest single contributor. $30 million. So right now, it's on silent because they're playing the Proud to Be in America thing that he does, and he's going to probably jerk off in his own face any moment now, and perhaps dance the YMCA at the end of it. We'll find out. It's all very exciting. I can't broadcast that because I'll get a copyright strike on YouTube. Welcome, everybody. Hi, Deidre. Hi, Stephanie. Hi, Phil. Hi, Ann. So if you want to be in the chat room, just chat on whatever platform you're watching this on, be it YouTube, Twitter, Twitch, whatever. Chat where you are, and it'll show up there on the left. And when I get a chance, I'll read it if I can. Yeah, Lee Greenwood decided not to show up at the NRA. This is just a few hundred miles away from the shooting of 18 kids, 2 adults. Is it 19 children now? There's actually more were shot. 19 are dead, I believe. And that whole thing is insanity. By the way, that school was hardened. That school has its own police force. And still, the 18-year-old was able to buy hundreds of bullets and a couple of assault rifles and wipe out an entire classroom. Here we go. He's going to adjust the mic needlessly. A second time. He's really got control issues. Let's listen. End of the song. We'll wait for that to fade out. Thank you. Thank you. He's going to awkwardly look to the left and the right. Thank you.
Well, thank you, Wayne, and thank you, Jason. I'm honored to be here in the great state of Texas with the wonderful patriots of the NRA. And unlike some, I didn't disappoint you by not showing up. Gotta show up. Gotta show up.
The governor of the state, Greg Abbott, did not show up.
For more than 150 years, the NRA has stood strong and tall in defense of our rights, our freedoms, our families, our law enforcement officers, and our sacred liberties as Americans. And together we're going to be standing strong and tall for many, many years to come. And I really do appreciate this incredible turnout. I want to express my tremendous gratitude to each and every one of the proud citizens here today. You are the backbone of our movement, and you are the backbone of our country. You know that.
And I am reading this from a teleprompter. You know that.
I just heard him. He made a wonderful speech. Ted Cruz, Senator, where are you? Thank you very much.
Lion Ted, I call him. Lion Ted.
Ted, thank you very much. Great job.
By the way, have you ever noticed Donald Trump can't do a straight thumbs up? That's a thumbs up. Look at it going up. He's the laziest man on the planet. Watch the thumbs up. It's going to be like this. You can't see it. It's going to be like this.
Ted, thank you very much.
Yeah, see? Just a little, like not even a... no, get the thumb up, away from the rest of the hand. No, it's like this. You guys can't even see. I gotta get out of here. Okay, moving on.
Great job. Governor Kristi Noem is here. Kristi, thank you. Kristi, doing a fantastic job. In North Carolina, there's a hot politician. He's a hot politician. Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson. I don't know where you are, Mark. I don't know where Mark is, but he is fantastic. We just had a very good day, as you know, in North Carolina. As we gather this week, citizens across this state and across this nation are filled with
grief.
Yep. In the wake of the heinous massacre of Robb Elementary School.
Which, by the way, he fixed after Parkland. They did a lot of things. He said so.
In Uvalde. You know all about that, and what a horrible...
We don't know all about that. That's part of the problem, is we can't get straight answers over what happened there. The latest thing that we know, that we've been told, but that we don't know, was that there was a school resource officer there, and he knew something was going on, and he drove past the assailant because the assailant crouched behind a car. That's how the assailant was able to get past the hardened school. Hold on. And we're good.
Horrible thing it was to see it, to watch it, to hear about it. The terrible murder of 19 innocent children and 2 adult teachers.
Remember, this was the guy who met with the families of the Parkland children and had to have a cheat sheet in his hand that said, "I hear you."
With many badly injured, was a savage and barbaric atrocity that shocks the conscience of every...
Really? Do you have to read this from a teleprompter? You can't speak on your own for this?
Every single American. So horrible. I want to add...
That's a nice ad-lib there. Just repeat the word. So horrible. So terrible and horrible. In other words, it was very horrible.
Ask for a brief moment of silence as I read the names of these beautiful people. All
that wouldn't... Are you going to read them to yourself?
All young, wonderful lives ahead of them. They're brave teachers whose lives were destroyed by an out-of-control lunatic. So
a real loser.
We'll start. Alexandria.
An out-of-control lunatic who got 2 big guns, military-style weapons, and enough rounds of ammo to take out the entire school.
Rubio. Aletha Ramirez. Amory Garza. Annabelle Guadalupe Rodriguez. Eliana Cruz Torres. Ellie Garcia. Jacqueline Cazares. Jayla Nicole Silguro. Jace Lovarnos. Jose Flores. Leila Salazar, McKenna Lee Elrod, Maitai Rodriguez, Miranda Mathis, Nevaeh Bravo, Rogelio Torres, Tess Marie Mata, Ozia Garcia, Javier Lopez, two great and beautiful, brilliant teachers, Eva Morales, Irma Garcia.
And Matt Random made a wonderful point there. The bell just turns this into theater. There's no actual bell.
And thank you very much. It's
That wasn't a moment of silence. He read the names.
a beautiful moment of silence for something that should never have.
It was beautiful, wasn't it? Wasn't it beautiful, that moment of silence where he read out the speech and a bell rang in our ears?
Even been thought about, let alone happened.
Ugh.
Each precious young soul that was taken.
That you had the opportunity to prevent when you were president. You could have banned assault rifles. You could have banned assault rifles to people under 21.
Is an incomprehensible loss. Literally not comprehensible.
No, it's comprehensible. We all comprehend it, and we're all sick and fucking tired of it.
Stolen from us by a malice that no words can describe. Sickness. The monster.
Oh, no, I can describe it. Monster. You're going to say monster right now, because that's the talking point, monster. It wasn't a monster. It was a human being that was given rifles that are designed to kill en masse, that was able to purchase ammo that was designed not just to penetrate a foe, but to decimate a foe. Not a deer, not a bobcat, not a raccoon that's digging up your lawn. Humans.
The monster who committed this crime is pure evil, pure cruelty, pure hatred, absolute pure hatred. And while those he slaughtered are now with God in heaven, he will be eternally damned to burn in the fires of hell.
Okay, yeah, that makes me feel better.
As we mourn for so many beautiful victims, I know that everyone here joins me in praying for the families who are suddenly missing the brightest light in their lives. We see their agony. We ask God to ease their suffering and to heal their pain, and together we grieve side by side as one great American family. Now is the time to find common ground. Sadly, before the sun
No, now is the time to fucking do something!
had even set on the horrible day of tragedy, we witnessed a now familiar parade of cynical politicians seeking to exploit the tears of sobbing families to increase their own power and take away our constitutional rights. Every time a disturbed or demented person commits such a hideous...
Yeah, I'm sure all the Democrats in Washington want to increase their own power by having universal background checks. Just imagine!
This crime, there's always a grotesque effort by some in our society
to prevent the crimes from happening again. Grotesque.
Use the suffering of others to advance their own extreme political agenda.
It's not extreme. 90% of the American people, including 88% of Republicans, in a poll taken just this week, want to have universal background checks. Would it have prevented this? No, but we need to go a lot farther than just the background checks. We'll talk about that another time.
Even more repulsive is their rush to shift blame away from the villains who
to the doors
commit acts of mass violence and to place that blame onto the shoulders of millions of peaceful, law-abiding citizens.
No one's blaming any of the people sitting in that audience. They're blaming the inaction of you and other leaders. But those people who have their guns and don't use those guns to commit crime, no one's blaming them for shooting up. Well, you know what? In a way, they're paying their dues to the NRA, and they know what kind of organization the NRA is. Yeah, we're blaming them.
Who belong to organizations such as our wonderful NRA. When Joe Biden blamed the gun lobby, he was talking about Americans like you. And along with countless other Democrats this week, he was shamefully suggesting that Republicans are somehow okay with letting school shootings happen. They're not okay with it.
Well, they're not doing anything to stop it, and it keeps happening over and over and over again. The popular definition of insanity is to repeat the same action over and over again, expecting a different result. That's not what insanity is. But if you apply this to it, it is. Not doing anything and expecting it to magically stop and go away. Not prohibiting the sales of guns to lunatics and expecting the whole thing to disappear and resolve itself because, God. Jesus did nothing to protect those 19 dead children. He didn't do jack shit. He's kind of busy, by the way. Apparently he's carrying people along beaches.
This rhetoric is highly divisive and dangerous, and most importantly, it's wrong. It has no place in our politics. As always, in the wake of these tragedies, the various gun control policies being pushed by the left would have done nothing.
God, I think he's trying to be presidential. He's trying to be somber today. But his energy level is absolutely nothing. And he keeps pausing in strange places, which is how he reads.
To prevent the horror that took place, absolutely nothing. Unfortunately, ever since Columbine, we've been...
Well, no. If you couldn't buy an assault rifle, the crime would not have happened in the way that it happened. I mean, that's just a fact. If he didn't have assault weapons, he might have purchased other weapons. But if he couldn't purchase weapons at 18, not a problem. Maybe he'd steal the weapons from things. But what I'm saying is, we can't know the hypothetical. But what we do know is he had access to assault weapons and a whole lot of ammo, and nobody at the gun store said a goddamn thing, and now we have 19 dead children and a couple of great teachers. Great, and for some reason, beautiful teachers.
Been afflicted by a contagion of school shootings carried out by deeply evil, violent, and mentally disturbed young men. While we don't yet know enough about this week's killing, we know there are many things we must do. We need to drastically change our approach to mental health.
Yes, if only you at some point in your life had been in charge of a tremendous healthcare system. If only. Oh well, what are you going to do?
There are always so many warning signs. Almost all of these disfigured minds share the same profile.
That's not true at all.
When people see something, whether on social media or in school, they need to say something. Teachers, parents, school officials, and community members need to be recognizing and addressing these alarm bells promptly and very, very aggressively.
And we remember the case just a couple of months ago where the young man was drawing guns and bullets and people bleeding on his paperwork, and the parents did nothing. So yeah, let's have those laws, but let's make them stronger.
And our school discipline systems, instead of making excuses and continually turning a blind eye, need to confront bad behavior head on and quickly.
It's the schools. The problem is the schools and the doors. The audience is like, is that an applause? Are we mad at the schools again? Is it CRT?
And clearly we need to make it far easier to confine the violent and mentally deranged into mental institutions. We have also, very importantly, got to deal with the problem of broken families because no law can cure the effects of a
broken families. You know, the way the shooter killed his grandmother. Yep, as far as I know, she's not dead yet. Shot in the face. And I hope she survives. So apparently he had family. He shot her in the face. His family. His grandfather is devastated, as I'm sure you can imagine. Grandfather had no idea that he was out there buying guns.
Broken home. There is no substitute for a strong mom and
What about religion? What if he knew God?
a great dad.
Mm-hmm. What about grandparents? Those are a wonderful substitute for a great mom and a great dad.
But while we work to address these deep, complicated issues and deal with this scourge, all of us must unite, Republican and Democrat, in every state and at every level of government, to finally harden our schools and protect our children.
The school was hardened. You know how the shooter got in? He jumped a fence. You know, oh, we need fences. Yeah, there was a fence. There was a resource officer. The school district has its own police force. They responded. They didn't see the shooter. And again, the story keeps changing. But the story we have today is that the shooter knelt down behind a car. So the resource officer, that's the police officer for the school district. They have several officers and a detective. He saw a teacher and thought that might be the shooter. And so went in that direction. Meanwhile, the shooter, boop, 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 in the back door, which the teacher, perhaps not that teacher, perhaps another teacher, again, we don't know, had propped open. The door was supposed to be locked, but propped open. Human error. When you harden a school, you cannot eliminate human error. You cannot prevent the bad guy from figuring stuff out. And I'm sorry, but if the back door is locked, you think that's going to stop the shooter who had already sent a message to someone saying, I'm on my way to shoot up an elementary school? No, there are windows. Are we going to make all the windows bulletproof in the elementary school, in all the schools? Are we just going to put everybody in a concrete box? Do we want to live that way, or do we want to take away the commonality? In every single one of these cases of the shootings, the shots come from the same thing. Well then people are just going to kill each other with knives. Okay. I will take that chance. I will gladly take the chance that if the door is locked and the shooter goes to the window, he has a knife. I'll take that trade in a heartbeat.
What we need now is a top-to-bottom security overhaul at schools all across our country.
Yeah, they had that. They did that. This is Texas, Donald. They love guns. So every time something happens in Santa Fe or Springfield or El Paso or you name it, small town Texas, they go right to whatever it is that isn't the actual problem. This school district has a website where they talk about their police department and they talk about reunification procedures and they practice the drills where the kids all get under their desks or hide behind the teacher and everybody stays really quiet. And the doors are all supposed to be locked. Unfortunately, when you're dealing with human beings, you don't always encounter perfection. So, do you just let chaos ensue? Or do you address the issue? Oh, and by the way, teachers can bring guns to school in Texas.
Every building should have a single point of entry.
This building did. By the way, this is a series of buildings at the school. Like many elementary schools, not in the northern climes, here in Los Angeles, for example, there are many different buildings at a school. And then there's portables. Like, what, we're just going to eliminate all the portables? Well, then you're going to have to build much bigger schools. Yeah, what about recess? What about track and field? What about when the kids want to play soccer during lunch? No, 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 no. Everybody, you're staying inside in the gymnasium where the bulletproof windows are 30 feet above the ground and no one leaves. That's the America we want. Or we can do like every other industrialized nation and address the issue. Up to you. Up to you. It's crazy.
There should be strong exterior fencing, metal
There was a fence.
detectors.
Oh, you gotta build a wall. A beautiful, great big wall that you can see through, and they can't tunnel underneath, and it'll have technology, and there'll be drones.
And the use of new technology to make sure
Oh my god, new technology. Fuck off.
that no unauthorized individual can ever enter the school with a weapon.
Right.
No one should ever be able to get anywhere near a classroom until they have been checked, scanned, screened, and fully approved.
Checked, scanned, screened, and fully approved. So we need 4 things that are exactly the same before someone can get near a classroom.
So important.
Yeah.
In addition,
Then why didn't you address any of this when you were president? Why not, Donald?
classroom doors should be hardened to make them lockable.
That's the word, by the way, hardened. Hardened. All the classroom doors are lockable, by the way. They have been. When I was a kid, you could lock the classroom doors. There may be some classroom doors out there that aren't hardened. All the classroom doors at my high school face the outside. So I'm not sure how you make one single entrance when everything is outside? Was there a fence around the perimeter of the school? Yeah. I don't know, make it a bigger fence, put more barbed wire at the top. I don't know. Or address the issue. One of the two. Your choice.
From the inside and closed to intruders from the outside. And above all, from this day
Drones and helicopters with shotguns and lasers, and the Jewish space lasers should take care of the schools. They should be aimed at every school.
forward, every school in America should have a police officer or an armed resource officer on duty at all times.
Okay, so let's just take a look at that statistically just for a second here. So you're talking about 130,000 schools in America. That doesn't include colleges. Let's throw colleges into it and just call it a cool 180,000, 200,000, somewhere there, if we have to include nursery schools, because you kind of do. Because at some point, that's going to happen too. And it has happened a couple of times, but it hasn't been that bad. There have been, for example, at a Jewish nursery school right here in Los Angeles where people got slaughtered. Children. So, you got to protect everybody, right? So now you're talking 200,000. You have to have an armed police officer at every entrance. And as Ted Cruz said, a couple of them at every entrance. Now you're talking about 400 officers. Plus, they're going to need days off. They're going to need breaks, etc. So now you're talking about you've got to have duplicate staff. That's just the way that police staffing works. Now you're talking about 600,000 to 800,000 police officers. And we haven't included any vacation days or whatever. But then you can have resource officers, police officers, etc. that take changes and substitute police officers for schools. Not just substitute teachers. So you're talking about 800,000 police officers to look after the schools. 800,000. Guess how many police officers there are in the United States? 800,000. So at a time with a record 11 million jobs unable to be filled in the United States, there are 11 million open jobs out there. You're going to find exactly the same number of police officers that are working right now and double them and make them want to become the biggest target at a school. Because in order to get into the school, what does the shooter have to do? And keep in mind, this shooter has the advantage. The element of surprise and the superior weaponry will be in the hands of the shooter. Oh, that's terrible to say, but okay, just think about Buffalo. 13 days ago? 2 Sundays ago. Think about the supermarket in Buffalo. You had a gentleman with a gun, ready to go, gun was loaded, watching that store. Former police officer. This guy was trained in firearms. He knew what he was doing. He shot the intruder. But the intruder had on body armor and he killed the police officer. So, we need to find a cop for every cop in this country who's willing to stand in front of a school and present themselves as a human target. That's all. Problem solved. Tracy says Eastern Washington blames gun-free zones. Period. If it wasn't a gun-free zone, it wouldn't happen. Do you guys want to know what gun-free zones are actually for? I'll tell you if you want to know. Some of you might already know. What we're watching right now is a gun-free zone. Guns are not allowed at the NRA Convention today to see President Trump. It's a gun-free zone. Let's continue.
Moreover, at every police department in America, we need a rigorous training on active shooter protocols to immediately locate and eliminate the target.
We have those. We have those. I can't imagine by now, since Columbine, that there's a single police department who doesn't enact those drills.
Took too long. And we need to expand funding, recruiting, and training for police departments nationwide.
Yeah, except that every Republican voted against that because that was in the COVID rescue plan. And every single Republican voted it down. Everyone.
This is not a matter of money. This is a matter of will.
Oh, so we should have had the COVID rescue will plan with no money attached to it? Because you just said... Didn't you just say something about increasing funding?
To expand funding, recruiting.
Okay. Expand funding, but the funding is in will.
And training for police departments nationwide. This is not a matter of money. This is a matter of...
Okay, but funding, but not a matter of money. Got it.
Will.
Okay.
If the United States has $40 billion to send to Ukraine...
That's the talking point right there. If we got $40 billion to send to Ukraine... And Mr. Putin thanks you, sir. Thank you so much for your service.
We should be able to do whatever it takes to keep our children safe
and listen to the applause
at home.
Yeah, how come we're defending Ukraine against Putin? Why are we saving the lives of Ukrainians?
That's true. We spent trillions in Iraq, trillions in Afghanistan. We got...
Yes, you did. You spent, well, $400 billion in your last year, but okay, anyway.
Nothing. Before we nation build the rest of the world, we should be building safe schools for our own children.
Right, and again, that's been done there. In Uvalde, they have the hardening. It had been hardened.
In our own nation, right?
Yeah. The fencing, the police, the armed teachers, the doors that were supposed to be locked, it's all there.
Last year alone...
What did he just take out and put back?
In our own nation, right?
Oh, he takes out a bottle of water, opens it, and puts it back. What just happened? Did he drink some water and I missed it? He might have. I don't know. Has he... 5, 6, 7... 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6... Why is this man always so weird with the water bottles? Did he just take out a bottle of water, open it or close it, and then put it back? Did I miss him drinking water? Somebody see him drinking water? And why did he do it then?
Last year alone, Biden and congressional Democrats sent $122 billion in so-called COVID relief funds to K through 12 schools, even while they were keeping many of our schools totally shut down. No
the schools were opening up.
Doubt severely worsening the mental health challenge of many youth. I mean, many of these young people really
better than dead, sir. Better than dead.
Suffered very greatly. They became very ill. They may have been ill to start, but they...
No, Deidre, it's a small town, and the Border Patrol responded. The Border Patrol seems to have responded quite well. Got there, and from what we know today, which could change tomorrow, they were the ones who actually shot the shooter. This is what we're told today. I don't know. But it's a town near the border. The Border Patrol, when something like this happens, or when a fire happens, or whatever, all the districts, regardless of jurisdiction, they come to help.
They became very, very ill. Congress should vote immediately to take back every penny of unused COVID relief money, take it back from the states, and use that money to quickly establish impenetrable security at every school all across our land.
Prison. Yeah, I know, Deidre, the town did have its own SWAT team, and from what I understand, and again, this could change in 10 minutes, from what I understand, the SWAT team approached from one side, and it was actually the Border Patrol from the other side that shot the... So that's... And again, we don't know. We haven't seen models. This is all still the fog of war.
Many have noted inner-city schools rarely have these kinds of mass shootings. I didn't know that until just recently. Think of that. They rarely have this problem.
They do have it too.
Despite being located in...
Here's the problem, though. Most schools are not inner-city schools. So you would have to take a look at which schools could be considered inner city and then put it into the total demographic basis of the entire thing, take out the average, and figure out, is this more prevalent?
Very tough neighborhoods in many cases where there's tremendous levels of high crime and violence. They're much more dangerous outside the school than inside.
Yeah.
The reason is that for decades, inner city schools have had much stronger security measures in place in the school itself, including metal detectors and, yes, armed guards. They had guns.
Right, and this school did too.
Armed guards.
Right. Much easier to defend, by the way, usually the inner city schools, because they're condensed, they're tall, and one single entrance is easier to do.
Whatever our
But yes, there are shootings at inner city schools.
differences may be on other issues,
But I'll tell you where they don't have these shootings. Everywhere else that isn't this country. They do have an occasional shooting in Canada. They do. But by the way, Canada, 38 million people. Texas, 28 million people. And I just offhandedly 10 minutes ago, I named Santa Fe Springs, Springfield, 3 days ago, El Paso, which wasn't a school shooting. Springfield was a church shooting. But these mass shootings happen all the time in Texas. New York, Buffalo, from Columbine on, Newtown. Someone has been publishing a list of these on Facebook. I saw it. I've seen it on Twitter as well. It's an endless list of schools. Throw out the church shootings. Throw out the synagogue shootings. Throw out the mosque shootings. Just the schools itself far outweigh any other industrialized, developed nation. It's not even close. In Canada, your chance of being shot and killed with a gun. This is not suicides. This is just homicides. A suicide rate from guns in the United States is insane. But just homicides. In Canada, your chance of getting shot and killed in a homicide by a gun is about 1 in 200,000. In the United States, it's 1 in 22,000. Canada's right there. Basically the same demographics, very same style of living, same religions, same everything, but for some reason, where it's more difficult to buy a gun, but you can have a gun in Canada. For some reason, you are 10 times more likely to be shot and killed with a gun here in the United States. And let's not even talk about the suicide rate.
On earth is stopping Democrats from immediately passing measures to ramp up school security.
Yeah, Newtown is in Sandy Hook, Connecticut. I guess the dog mother lived there. I'm sorry to hear that. That, just another,
How many more tragedies will it take until they agree to set aside their far-left political agenda and do what is really needed and what actually works? This is not about virtue signaling and signing. This is...
What the... Virtue signaling, you idiot! Here's the problem. We are all sick and fucking tired of having our hearts broken over and over again. And what does your side do? Nothing! Nothing! They did everything here at the school. The school was hardened. They changed the law so the teachers could bring guns there. And a teacher left the door open. Oh well. If a car kept catching fire, the car would be recalled. If lawn darts poked a couple of kids in the eye, maybe, I don't know, maybe even killed a kid, lawn darts would be banned. Wait, that actually happened. Assault rifles and guns in general are the leading cause of death of children in America. The leading cause of death. And the right continues to do absolutely nothing and hope that it changes. Because it's the back door's fault. That's what we really should be talking about.
This is about blaming your enemies. No, we don't want to do that. This is about saving our children's lives. Yes, that's what we want to do.
Yeah.
Surely we can all agree our school should not be the softest target. Our school should be the single hardest target in our country.
Yeah, no, I don't agree with that. I think take away the thing that's targeting. How about that? He's proposing hardening the schools. Go to the Uvalde School District website. On there, they'll show you all the ways that they've been hardened. They did a pretty good job with it. Didn't work. Sorry.
And that's why, as part of a comprehensive school safety plan, it's time to finally allow highly trained teachers to safely and discreetly concealed carry. Let them...
Yeah, teachers can bring schools to guns. Licensed, trained teachers can bring guns to school in one variation or another in 28 states. Studies have been done by this. I put it up on my Twitter. The RAND organization, a think tank, did a study of all the studies that have been done on allowing teachers to bring guns to school. It makes zero difference. In Texas, teachers can have a gun. They can bring a gun to school. Sorry. Teachers, parents. Sorry.
Them concealed carry. And again, they have to be able to handle it. They have to be highly trained. All of those things, but
Yeah, but they're not highly trained. That's the problem. And again, the police officers were all highly trained, and they stood around outside. All those officers must have known what to do. It used to be in this country that the modus operandi was to set up a perimeter, negotiate, figure out if there were hostages, etc., and then Columbine happened. And in Columbine, people died while waiting for the police to go into the building. One teacher they know for sure bled to death while waiting for the police to enter the building. And since Columbine, law enforcement procedure has been to invade and go after the shooter, whatever it takes. Even if you don't have backup, even if you don't have another police officer with you, your job is to get in there and stop the shooter no matter what. But it's not the guns.
Them do that, it would be so much better and so much more effective, even from a cost standpoint. Because there is no sign more inviting to a mass killer than a sign that declares a gun-free zone.
No, not even a thing. The teachers in Texas can have guns. The police, it has its own police force. The school district has a police force. I didn't even know that was a thing. In Uvalde, they have a police force. And the police carry guns. What a gun-free zone means is that unless you're specially licensed, you're not allowed to have a gun in that school. And time after time after time, ask any district attorney in the United States, when they find a kid with a gun at school, they're able to stop something from happening, prevent the mass murder or whatever it was going to be in the first place, and prosecute and or treat that child. If it's mental health, because of a mental health issue. It's something else because of crimes are prevented on an almost daily basis in the country because of gun-free zones. Gun-free doesn't mean nobody can have a gun there. Gun-free means if you're not supposed to have a gun there, you can't have a gun there. And if you do, we can prosecute you. That's what a gun-free zone is.
Most dangerous place. I know it's...
No, it's the most safest place. It's supposed to be.
Sounds good, and it really does. Doesn't it sound wonderful? But it's not.
Sounds great.
And statistically, it's a total disaster. Gun-free zone, they look at that sign and they say, that's where I'm going. We cannot have that because if somebody goes into...
Marcy just sent me a link to a bulletproof backpack, which they've had for years, actually, in this country. It's interesting, the way that this one is advertised. This is from Atomic Defense. This is Gun Site. Hold on a second. It's interesting the way this is advertised. Look at that. AR-15, AK-47, bulletproof backpack. Stops AR-15 and AK-47 school shooters. It's lightweight. Interesting that those would be the guns that they list.
That building, all of those innocent people will be taken out, will be killed, will be tortured. Bad things will happen. Have to get rid of it. As the age-old saying goes, the only way...
Has he taken the water yet?
...to stop a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun. Have you ever heard that? No.
Unless the bad guy ducks behind a car. Or the good guys get there and then they don't go in. Now, some police officers were in some of the building is what we're being told, but we don't know. And it looks like the timeline is now about 78 minutes. 78 minutes to take out the bad guy.
Never heard that. And in the absence of a member of law enforcement...
By the way, what we believe to be the case now is that the bad guy went in there and did all the damage within just a couple of minutes. There was a good guy with a gun, but he didn't see him because the bad guy crouched.
There is no one you would rather have nearby when a crisis strikes than an armed, expertly trained member of the NRA.
Okay, well then, I mean, there's NRA members in the city. Why didn't they rush the building?
Let's not pretend that those on the left are just talking about limiting one class of gun or one category of
Yeah, they are. Some of them are.
ammunition. You know they're not doing that. We all know they want total gun confiscation.
Yeah? Is everybody under siege? Is that what's happening?
Know that. This would be a first step. Once they get the first step, they'll take the second step, the third, the fourth,
Yeah,
and then
yeah. And then?
you'll have a whole different look at the Second
We'll do the hokey pokey and you turn yourself about. That's what it's all about.
Amendment, which is, by the way, totally under siege, but we stopped.
There it is. It's under siege. Second Amendment, by the way, totally under siege. He's been saying this for years.
Stopped it for 4 years. We stopped it, and you've got to stop it. You've got to stop it. But even if every decent and honest American gave up their guns, the criminals would never give up theirs, and they never will. They're never going to give up theirs. They would wreak havoc like never before in our country. The fact is, there will always be sick and demonic souls who wish to harm the innocent and see malice triumph over
Then why have any laws at all?
good. Going to have that. But the existence of evil in our world is not.
Yeah, Marcy's correct. Texas passed, and so happy about it. Had a big celebration. They just passed open carry, conceal, whatever. Just, you want a gun? No problem. Take the gun. You don't have to prove yourself to be sane. Here's a gun. 18 years old, you want to buy 2 guns? 2 assault rifles? And 1,000 rounds? Enjoy. Nothing we can do about it.
Not a reason to disarm law-abiding citizens who know how to use their weapon and can protect a lot of people.
Okay, but they didn't.
The existence of evil is one of the very best reasons to arm law-abiding citizens. And that is why one of the core missions of the NRA is to train, prepare, and equip responsible American men and women with the knowledge and tools they need to defend themselves, their families, and their communities. Have to defend their communities.
And they didn't.
And their families. Every single year, the NRA's 125,000 certified instructors, these are highly trained, very, very capable people. They train an incredible 1 million Americans to be safer gun owners, ready to act when the situation calls.
Every year. So in the last 30 years, they've trained 30 million Americans, and yet none of those 30 million Americans managed to get to that school within the next 78 minutes and do something.
Incredible job.
The highly trained, expertly trained.
And every day, that training is protecting the vulnerable and safeguarding the innocent. An estimated 500,000 to 2.5 million Americans each year use a firearm in self-defense.
Nope.
The vast majority without ever even having to fire a shot.
Nope. Yes, that's the last part there. Without ever having to fire a shot. What that statistic comes from is not when, oh, hey, look, someone's breaking in. I've got a gun. Get out. Get out. That doesn't happen a million times a year. Oh, I'm going to rape you. No, you're not. I have a gun. Get out. Crime prevented. Registry, check. Where those stats come from is anytime there's a domestic violence altercation or a fight at a bar or a crime on the street or someone robs a liquor store and gets away with it or whatever, if somebody else has a gun in that situation, they count that as a self-defense. Even if the liquor store gets robbed and the liquor store has a shotgun underneath the counter, whether that was even taken out or not, let alone being fired, they count that as a use of self-defense. When a study was done of rape victims, a firearm was used in exactly 0 of the cases. What they found is that typically rapists don't give rape victims a whole lot of warning and a chance to grab their gun from their purse or their gun safe, hopefully, or it never happens. Might have happened once. The trouble with that stat, of course, is that if the gun is used, then the rape doesn't take place and it's not classified as a rape, but it would still be an attempted rape and go down with it. So it's fuzzy math. But the basic premise of 500,000 to 2.5 million, Wayne LaPierre earlier today said it was 1 million. Ted Cruz said 500,000 to 1 million. So, which is it? I mean, if you're going to make something up, at least let's not double it in the meantime. But Trump gets up 487 million times a year.
Oftentimes, they know you have it, and they say, no, thank you. We're not going We're not going to mess with her. In addition, according to newly released data from the FBI, last year there were...
By the way, houses with stickers that say protected by gun owner, or beware of gun owner, or NRA member, they are more likely to get broken into because the criminals know they can probably get some guns inside.
Not one.
That was as of like 15 years ago. The last time I looked at, somebody did a study like 15 years ago. Could have been 20 that way. What was the night? It was like 2004. So yeah, that was quite a while ago. But someone did a study way back when, and it turns out that yeah, that's a wonderful billboard for I have guns in the house. Wait for me to leave and come on in. Had a friend whose house was robbed. The only thing they took was the gun safe. That's something like knickknacks and stuff like that. But it's like the, yeah, left the cash safe, took the gun safe, because gun safes are really obvious.
One, not two, not three, but four active shooters who were taken out by an armed civilian bravely exercising their Second Amendment rights, saving countless...
Deidre has a gun safe. Deidre, do not put on your outside window that you have guns.
...innocent lives. That is what the Second Amendment is all about. We're honored to be joined...
What did he say it was all about?
...exercising their Second Amendment rights, saving countless innocent lives. That is what the Second Amendment is all about.
No, it's not. Second Amendment is making sure the federal government doesn't take over the states. And Second Amendment ensures that the states defend one another or come to the aid of the federal government. The Second Amendment is about defending yourself against the British if the British come back, or the French, or anybody else. Christine Ohm was on earlier, and she was talking about the French Revolution, and without mentioning Robespierre's name, and claimed that the French Revolution, she was anti-French Revolution and pro-Russia. What are you even talking about? She was reading, but she said the French Revolution, the founding fathers, because of the French Revolution, put in the Bill of Rights so the citizens could protect themselves against the mayhem in France where they toppled statues. Sound familiar? That's what she said. Because, you know, with a not so veiled reference to Black Lives Matter protests. So the Black Lives Matter are the French Revolution, and those are the bad guys. Not Louis the 12th, 13th, 14th, 15th, 17th. Not the kings. Can you hear the people sing? Da, 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 da.
We're honored to be joined today by a true Texas hero. The Sunday after Christmas in 2019, veteran firearms instructor Jack Wilson was attending services at the West Freeway Church of Christ outside of Fort Worth. He saw a strange man enter the church, and after that, Jack never took his eyes off him, would not leave him. He knew something was wrong, right up until the man approached the person serving communion and pulled out a gun. Thankfully, after Texas passed a law allowing concealed carry in places of worship, Jack had volunteered to lead his church's citizens security team, and he knew what he was doing. Instantly, Jack and another congregant pulled out their firearms very quickly, very professionally. The
Professionally?
shooter gunned down Jack's team member and then turned and killed the man serving Holy Communion. Amid the chaos, Jack had only an instant to take aim. He saw his chance and took out the shooter with a single perfect shot.
Okay, so Jack, professional, trainer, expert, licensed, shooter, able to get a gun. Probably not professionally trained, probably not licensed, probably not... See what I'm saying? Some people, police officers, should probably have guns. Militias should have guns as long as they're well regulated. But guy who walked in there and shot the team member should not have had a gun. And the fewer the people like the guy who went in there and started shooting, the fewer people like that have the guns, the less we have to rely on a gun expert coming to our church. Springfield, Texas, it wouldn't have mattered if Jack had been in the church with his gun permit or not. Because in Springfield, the guy had an assault weapon and shot through the wall of the church with his assault rifle, killing, was it 29, 31? Entire families. Way too many people. Riddled the side of the church with bullets, which went right through the walls, killing the congregants inside, got back in his truck. Now, a good guy with a gun heard this happening. In his bare feet, went and grabbed his AK-47 or AR-15 or whatever it was, I can't remember now, ran out the door, started shooting at the shooter who was already in his truck and driving away. So the gun nut story is this guy saved lives. No, the guy was already leaving. The shooter was already leaving the scene. But he saved lives. Anyway, not knocking the citizen who came to the assistance of the slaughtered in the church. Not knocking that at all. That guy's a hero. I wish, if I'm in that situation, I do the same thing. You never know until you're in that actual situation. I'd like to think that I would. I don't know. What I'm saying is, maybe keep guns out of the hands of the bad guys. There was a good guy with a gun in the Clackamas Mall shooting. There was a good guy with a gun in Buffalo. Fuck all that did.
Come on up here, Joe.
The commonality in all these stories is guns.
Come on up here, Jack. Thanks to Jack's sharp eye and swift action, the shooter was down.
Did he say Jack Sharp Eye? Is he giving this guy a nickname? Is it Jack's Sharp Eye?
Thanks to Jack's sharp eye and swift
Okay, saying it together. So yeah, he got it.
action, the shooter was down within 6 seconds out from pulling his gun. Think of that, 6 seconds.
That's an eternity.
And with more than 240 worshipers in the church, which perhaps all would be gone right now, Jack had saved the lives of an old, really...
Perhaps the shooter, who I believe had a handgun, but I can't remember, perhaps the shooter would have killed all 240 people in the church. We don't know. But Trump says perhaps. It's good. Could be.
an untold...
Anyway, guy's a hero. I mean, I'm not knocking the guy with the gun, the good guy with the gun. I wish it happened more. It doesn't.
number of innocent people that he knew very well and he loved. Jack, we want to thank you for a job well done. We salute you, a true professional, a really great man. Jack, say a few words, Jack.
Thank each and every one of you. Again, thank you, President Trump, and you're still my president. What I did that day was not for my glory. It was to save countless friends and family in that setting. I hope you're never put in that position, but understand if you are put in that position, you have to make that decision to do what is right. Not what somebody says, well, you shouldn't do that. No. I did not kill a human being that day. I took out evil.
Still a human being. But if you need to rationalize it to make yourself feel better, you really shouldn't. You saved lives. I mean, you saved 240 lives or whatever it was. Perhaps. But yeah, you shouldn't rationalize it. It's there's evil everywhere. Everyone has a little bit of evil in them.
And just as what happened in Uvalde this week, that was evil. We have to deal with evil at all levels. You have.
Okay, but one of your guys came on earlier and said you can't legislate evil away. So, what else can you do?
Have to stand up and be prepared to protect and do what you have to do to stop evil.
Yeah, someone had done a study. This is years ago. No None said something along these lines. I just briefly read what they said. There was a study done where you're more likely, if you're the good guy with the gun, you're more likely to be mistaken by, well, sorry, I should start this way. A, you might be shot by the bad guy, like as the case, the good guy with a gun in Buffalo. In the supermarket, in the Tops supermarket. It wasn't Tops. It was whatever it was. Anyway, he was killed. Or the cops show up. They don't know who the good guy is. Their job is to take down the shooter dead as quickly as possible. Which happens. So, good guy with a gun, yeah. Good. But not always good.
In this country. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Jack. And as Jack's story reminds us, defending our Second Amendment is about defending law, order, and life. We know that. As law and order conservatives, we have no higher goal than to reduce violent crime by the greatest degree possible. And there is no mystery as to what is required. Over the past 2 years, our nation has paid a horrifically bloody price for the Democrats' defund the police rhetoric and their weak on crime
Police have not been defunded in Texas.
Policies. We have paid a...
There's no soft on crime policies in Texas. But you did, sir, sign the Second Chance Act and try and get a bunch of prisoners out early.
big price. In every city where the left attacked the police, slashing funding, or hired radical prosecutors, violent crime has skyrocketed.
Murders went up 30% in 2020 under Trump. 30% across the nation, not just in the big cities. Across the nation, homicides were up 30% in 2020 under Trump's leadership. In 2021, they were up again under Biden by 5%. But 20% in that 1 year.
Last year, 12 major cities hit all-time highs. This is the history of our country, all-time high.
Yeah, lots and lots of cities hit all-time high. Again, in 2021, it was up 30%. And then another 5% in 2021, which is still terrible, but not 30%.
Highs in record homicides, and this year is looking far, far worse, not even close. In Democrat-run Sacramento last year, a man with a long criminal history was released from jail on zero bail and wished that he would never have been put in jail. That was his wish. Weeks later, he...
What? There's a couple of shootings in Sacramento just recently. I'm not sure which one this is leading up to.
Broke into an innocent woman's home, sexually assaulted her, murdered her, killed her 2 dogs, and set her house on fire. This past February in New York, another horrible
Okay, that's terrible.
person with at least 6 prior arrests was released without bail before going on a stalking tour after a 35-year-old woman went into her apartment, stabbing her to death and leaving her body in the bathtub.
These cold stories, by the way, I got one. Just a few days ago, an 18-year-old on his birthday bought a gun. A couple days later, he bought another gun. Then he ran into a school and he killed 19 children. But this was all legal. I mean, everything he did up until this point was legal in the state of Texas. An 18-year-old. Had nothing to do with him being released by bail, nothing to do with defunding the police, nothing to do with any Democrat policies in the big cities. This was in a tiny town, population 16,000 in Texas. The state that experiences more death by guns than any other. But anyway, go on about the Sacramento thing. It's terrible. It's terrible. And I'm not being facetious here. It's terrible that a woman was raped and her dogs were killed and her house was set on fire. That is absolutely terrible. But was that because the Democrats do the defund thing, which doesn't actually happen? But
And recently in Philadelphia, a thug murdered an innocent man walking his dog 2 weeks after being released on armed kidnapping and assault charges, where he badly hurt
badly.
a number of people.
Right.
The very same Democrat politicians.
Okay, so people who are charged with assault have to stay in jail interminably? Is that what we're... I don't know where he's going with this. But this is Democrats' fault.
Who stoked riots over a single police-involved killing 2 years ago are...
Oh my God. Stoked riots over a single police killing. George Floyd was the first time that police had killed a minority. Damn you, Democrats, overreacting to all the black people getting killed by the one black guy. Can he even comprehend what he's reading off the teleprompter right now? I don't think so.
Numb to the mounting death toll of their own radical policies. But we must not be. We cannot let that happen. Big city mayors like Lori Lightfoot in Chicago, Muriel Bowser in Washington.
Yeah. Now would not be the time to reflect on the loss that we've all experienced just a couple of 100 miles away from your standing right now of 19 innocent children and 2 beautiful, loving school teachers and the husband of one of the school teachers who died of a broken heart. And that's an actual thing, by the way. That's a medical condition. I've talked about that on the show before, but it's called Takotsubo heart attack, where just like Debbie Fisher after Carrie Fisher, Debbie Reynolds after Carrie Fisher, mother-daughter, died just a few days later, you can die of a broken heart. Your heart can react in such a way where it swells, cannot pump, you have a stroke, and you die. Incredibly sad. But that's the thing, which is why so many couples, older couples especially, one passes away and then within a few days or a couple of months, the other passes away as well.
Jim Kenney in Philadelphia watched the slaughter.
Or goes on a cruise, either way.
Day in and day out and do absolutely nothing. But we must act. If America
Oh, okay, so now we want to do something about slaughters?
had a proper approach to policing, prosecuting, and jailing, we could cut violent
Okay, the violent criminal didn't exist.
crime in our major cities by much more than half.
I guess we've moved on from the gun thing in Uvalde.
And it would take place almost immediately. Under the greatest mayor in the history of New York, Rudy Giuliani, they cut violent crime by 58% and the murder rate by 66% in just a few years. And then it got better than that. And under our own administration, we significantly reduced violent crime 3 years in a row.
And in the 4th year, it's skyrocketed. Violent crime has been coming down for years and years and years. I use the term skyrocketed, which is overused. But homicide skyrocketed in 2020. Burglaries way down. The bottom dropped out of the burglary market because everybody was home during 2020. So you couldn't burgle the house.
We resurrected Project Safe Neighborhoods, bringing together prosecutors, police, sheriffs, and citizen groups to
So the 4th year just never happened.
get dangerous felons off the streets and off the streets rapidly. We funded 200 new violent crime prosecutors. With Operation Legend, we surged hundreds and hundreds of federal law enforcement officers.
I know, and you fixed the crime problem in Chicago. That was the goal of Operation Legend. Chicago's all better.
Offices to Democrat-run cities that you've heard so many horrible things about.
Right. And yet you did Operation Legend, and it didn't fix it.
To put violent offenders behind bars where they belong.
Yeah.
When they started knocking down statues in Washington, D.C. and other locations.
Paris.
I watched this in amazement. Lincoln, Jefferson, Washington, knocking them down. And I immediately signed an executive order which stated that anybody, even lightly defaces a federal monument or statue will get a minimum of 10 years in prison.
Yeah, that's the executive order does. You can't do that. You cannot do that with an executive order. There was already a law that said you can get up to 10 years of federal crime on federal property. So his executive order saying you could, the president can't make laws. It's just not the way it works. It's, you know, the Constitution.
10 years. And immediately upon signing it, everything stopped. Do you ever notice that? It all stopped. There was nothing.
That's not true.
Didn't happen.
Yeah.
Amazing, isn't it?
It is that you think that because it's just not true.
I felt I had a political and moral...
And then at the very last thing before I left office, I signed a law saying there were going to be no more riots and protests over George Floyd. And the amazing thing is, there weren't any.
Obligation to allow Democrat mayors and governors to run their cities and states when it came to crime and riots and even horrible violence. In my own mind, I was allowing the Democrats to show how they would handle the situation.
In your own mind? What?
And when it got out of control, I got involved. I got our government energized. I called the National Guard and federal law enforcement, and we saved the cities of Minneapolis, Kenosha, Seattle, Chicago, and even Portland.
Yeah, the National Guard is called in by the governors, not by Trump, unless it's Washington, D.C. And there's an insurrection on the January 6th, and he doesn't.
During some very, very bad times in those places. But then they wander back to the past. But if I ever do it again, namely run for president and win, I would no longer feel obligated to do it that way. I would crack down on violent, longer feel. But if I ever do it again, namely run for president and win, I would no longer feel obligated. But if I ever do it again, namely run for president and win.
Well, that's never going to happen, so.
I would no longer feel obligated to do it that way. I would crack down on violent crime like never before.
Right, which again went up under your presidency.
Which is the way I would have liked to have done it the first time, but in a certain way, I'm glad I didn't. The easiest, simplest,
You're glad you didn't stop crime.
most straightforward thing we can do to save thousands of American lives from violence is to hire more police, arrest more violent criminals, give them speedy trials, and get them into jail.
Okay. And why didn't you do this the 4 years that you were president?
And we've now seen what the Democrats do when they're left to run the cities. So now it has to be done right.
Right, but those are the mayors, sir, not the presidents. And the Democrats have been running the big cities for generations because the people there realize the Democrats do much more for them than the Republicans.
Over time, that will save tens of thousands of lives and billions of dollars. Never forget the same people that are lecturing.
What is this cadence? Billions and billions of dollars. Never forget that the people
us about gun confiscation are the ones who are
No one's lecturing you about gun confiscation.
also taking cops off the street
They're not taking cops off the street.
and letting criminals out
The federal Democrats are funding the cops.
of jail, knowing that it will get tens of thousands of Americans killed, and killed rather quickly, unfortunately.
Really?
You really wonder, do the Democrats even care? Now, the radical
The ones that want to do something about gun crime. Yeah.
left Democrats are continuing to push to abolish cash bail and to strip our police officers of their qualified immunity. Just this week, the Biden administration announced new policies
The police officers, the ones that stood outside the school for an hour, those police officers, yeah.
threatening to hold law enforcement officers liable not only for their misconduct, but even for the misconduct of other officers, a totally destructive policy that will only make our communities less safe. What officer is going to get involved if they think they can lose everything, their family, their pension, everything?
Well, hold
crazy
on. What officer is going to get involved? Maybe one of those officers that you want standing in front of the schools as a target. Maybe one of those officers. You know, those 800,000 new officers that aren't officers yet that are going to want to suddenly become police officers in front of schools. Maybe one of those officers.
Not even thinkable.
Bye, dog mother.
If Democrats truly care about stopping the bloodshed in America, the Biden administration's war on police must end, and it must end right
There's no Biden administration war on police.
now. We will no longer defund.
Biden has always been against defunding police, and he said so many times, including to Trump's face. Bye, Libby.
Thank you. We will no longer.
I know what he yelled. Let's find out. Or not.
We will no longer.
I don't know.
I knew it had to happen.
You rarely see Trump laugh. You very rarely see him laugh, but he actually laughed right there, so it must have been something. Probably a compliment to Trump.
Who is that man? Stand up, please. Who is that?
It might have been a "Let's go Brandon" chant. I have no idea. Let's find out. Or something similar. He laughs. That would make him laugh. I'm trying to think of things that would make Trump laugh. What had to happen?
We will no longer defund.
No, what do you say now? That's all I care about.
I knew it had to happen. We will no longer. I knew. Thank you. We will no longer. I knew it had to happen.
Sorry.
Longer. Thank you. We will no longer.
I don't know. I can't tell. Ah, sadness. Moving on.
I knew it had to happen. Who is that man? Stand up, please. Who is that?
Did anybody get that? If you got that, put it in the camera or the camera. Put it in the chat room.
Had to happen.
Had to happen.
We will no longer defund the police, and we will no longer even mention defunding of the police. We will never mention
Even the police that didn't do anything with the active shooter in Texas, even those police?
it again.
Uh-huh.
Great American heroes.
The ones who stood outside and wouldn't even let the parents storm the building. The ones who handcuffed the parents. The one who tasered the parent that was trying to get their child off the bus. Not trusting the authorities to keep their child safe any longer. Those heroes?
And if allowed to do their job, they will do it like nobody else can. All of those crime statistics will be cut so in such a big way. You'll be.
Then why didn't you do that while you were president? You were there for 4 years, and under your leadership, crime rose.
Be so proud. You'll be so proud to be an American when you see.
Marcy points out 40% of the Uvalde City budget is for police. How much more funding do you need?
Chicago.
And when it came right down to it, the only time in your life you've ever heard of Uvalde, when the police were needed at that moment more than ever before, they didn't do their job.
When you see in Chicago 80 people shot, sometimes in a weekend, and many people dying, that's a war zone.
Yeah, you need to ban weekends. From now on, we're going right from Friday to Monday.
When you see what's happening in other cities, it's just incredible. So you'll be proud to be an American. Under a new
Because at least I know I'm free.
Congress next year, we should pass legislation strengthening qualified immunity for our police officers.
Yeah, that's unfortunately qualified immunity. We don't have time to get into it right now, but it's terrible.
So we have to do that. Who would ever take a job without that? Think of it. Who would ever take a job?
Lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of police officers who work in other countries where they don't have qualified immunity, to answer your question. So millions and millions of police officers is the answer you're looking for.
You ruin your life. You have one bad story that may be made up, because a lot of the stories are made up. One bad made-up story, and your life is over.
Uh-huh.
Our law enforcement men and women
I mean, it would go before a jury.
do their duty to
And, you know, body cameras, etc. There's ways to prevent these things from happening.
protect.
One bad story, you know, you hold down a black guy, you put your foot on his neck, you put your knee in his back, you stop him from breathing, you leave him on the ground for 9 minutes. One bad, it could just be made up.
Us, and we must do our duty to protect them. Have to do it. Earlier this week, the law enforcement officer who stopped the Texas shooter's rampage was reportedly a member of the group Joe Biden has most viciously betrayed and demonized the heroes of Border Patrol.
He hasn't demonized them.
He was very brave.
Yes, very brave, but Joe Biden hasn't demonized the Border Patrol.
Every day, our amazing Border Patrol agents and ICE officers are risking their lives to keep our community safe. And when we regain control of Congress, we must do that. Please remember that.
By the way, this is not the GOP. This is the NRA, just to remind you. We are not looking at CPAC. This is the NRA, which is an apolitical organization.
We can stop socialism and communism at one time. Wouldn't that be nice?
A non-profit, non-political organization. That's what the NRA is.
We will once again give these great patriots the authority, the resources, and the respect they need and dearly deserve. They need this. They have to have it, but we need it. We need it more than they do. There can be no doubt that the crime crisis is fueled in part by the Biden border crisis. Numbers of people coming in at levels that nobody's ever seen before, probably that no country has ever seen before. When I left
Yes, the NRA is tax exempt.
office, we handed the new administration the most secure, by far, border in the history of the United States. We ended catch and release. We ended asylum fraud. We struck historic agreements with Mexico. Stay in Mexico. Is that a nice sounding agreement? That is stay in Mexico.
I don't know. I mean, I like Mexico. I'd stay there. Ted Cruz tried.
Biden immediately terminated stay in Mexico, along with pipelines and every other thing. And now, congratulations, gasoline just hit in a lot of places today, $9.25.
Yeah, the pipeline, the Keystone XL pipeline would have absolutely no effect on the price of gas today. $9.25? Is it that one gas station in California? I haven't seen. Does somebody want to look that up? But okay.
We deported illegal alien gang members by the thousands, and we built nearly 500 miles of great, beautiful new border wall, the exact same
God, he's boring.
specifications that the Border Patrol gave us. We got it built, and then we started building more.
So to interrupt this just for a second, for those of you who join us for Friday night movie night, we will be doing that tonight. Should start around 6. I'm not going to be able to stay for the movie, but I'll start things up, and you guys can do your thing.
We're going to add another 200. We were almost finished with that.
And now this is just a Trump rally.
And then, lo and behold, they came in with a very bad election, very bad,
For you.
put it mildly. They came in with a bad election, and they stopped building the border wall. And when Texas went to them and wanted to use the fencing that was already bought and paid for and sitting there waiting just to go up, would have taken 3 weeks to finish it, they took it away. They wouldn't give it to them. So at least you know where they're coming from. We gave them the best border ever, and they turned it into the worst border nightmare of all time. And you are paying a very high price for that right here in Texas. You're paying a very high price. We had the greatest border, the most secure border in this country, in our country's history. Under Biden, it's always America last, one globalist sellout after another. It's America last. It's even reported that the Biden administration is considering putting UN bureaucrats in charge of your Second Amendment rights.
No. That is an old Rothschild conspiracy theory from the 1970s, and it's just never gone away. Yeah, gas is petrol.
Just like I'm sure that most of you haven't heard this, but you know I terminated the Iran nuclear deal because it was a disaster. They want to go back into it. You know?
Gallons of stew, in order to figure that out, it's $1.66 a liter, so that's 4 times a liter is a gallon, roughly, and then convert to U.S. dollars, and you'll figure out what that is in U.S. dollars. But yeah, gas is up worldwide. Why? Because the entire world has to buy the same oil.
Who's negotiating for us? Russia and China. How's that going to work out? You think that's going to work out good?
Well,
can you imagine Russia and China saying, do you believe this? He wants us to negotiate the deal for him.
yeah.
This is a sad day. This is one of the saddest times for our country that I've ever seen. They want to re-enter
Yeah, because we're having our children killed, and no one's doing anything about it.
the ridiculous UN Arms Trade Treaty and pursuing a UN ban on lead ammunition. You know that, because it's not environmentally friendly.
Yeah.
Is there a substitute for lead? You people are better at this than me.
Yes.
Wayne,
Lots.
where's Jason? Is there a substitute? They want to get rid of lead?
Where's Jason?
Because it's environmentally unfriendly. The last time I appeared at this NRA leadership forum.
Yeah, we could. I know the Canadian dollar conversion. So if Babe says it's $1.80 a liter here times 4, so just under the 7. I'll figure this out. 7, 12, 24, 48. It's about $7.50 a gallon. $7.52 a gallon Canadian. So $7.52 gallon Canadian is about 13 cents US. That's a pretty good price.
I stood before you and I proudly signed a document revoking America's signature from the globalist UN disaster. Under my leadership, we never surrenders American sovereignty. We would never surrender American sovereignty.
You said
and we
that.
always put America first.
Yeah.
I remember in the early weeks of the Biden administration, Biden said, we're not going to stand for America first. Now, you know, even if you didn't agree with our policy, you can't say that. It is a great name, isn't it, America First? The only thing better might be Ultra MAGA. They gave us a great name. But compare
2 laughs in 1 speech. This is a big moment.
that, all of the things we talk about, we see, we feel, and many of the things we don't talk about, compare that with how great America was just 2 years ago.
It was 2020. It was in the middle of COVID. It was the worst time in recent memory. And by that, anyone alive. People were dying en masse.
Think of it. There was no inflation. The war with Russia.
The economy was in a nosedive. The GDP fell 32%. Yeah.
Going into
People were not leaving their houses. Businesses were closed.
Ukraine would never, ever have happened. Would have never happened. I spoke to Putin about it. Would have never, ever happened. He knew the consequences. He would have never done it. In fact, he didn't do it. Sleepy Eyes chucked out on Meet the Fake Press.
Sleepy Eyes is a Jewish slur.
You ever hear of Meet the Fake Press or Deface the Nation, those shows? Ladies and gentlemen, it's President Donald Trump on Deface the Nation. But
He doesn't go on Face the Nation.
that really should be the name of these shows. But he was saying to Blinken, I believe, he said, how come this never happened with Trump? Don't forget, Georgia
Yeah. Was in Bush's second term. Yeah.
given up by Bush.
Yeah.
Hate to say it.
Bush's second term. Yeah.
Georgia was given up by Bush.
Yep, the 8th year of Bush's administration. Yep. Sorry, the 6th year of Bush's administration.
Crimea
Yep.
was given up by Obama and Biden.
Right. Well, given up is the wrong word because it wasn't really theirs, but that was the 6th year of the Obama administration. So his second term. Yeah.
Biden. I mean, we'll add Biden's name in that if you
Right.
don't mind.
Yeah. And 2022 would be what year of your administration? Why is it not your second? Did you not win a second term, Donald?
Nothing was given up by Trump. And then
Well, yeah, you only did the one term. That's not how Putin works.
and all of Ukraine, essentially,
No.
was given up by Biden. Because what do they have left? You know, with all the shooting, all the rockets, every
Really? All of Ukraine was given up by Biden? He does not watch the news.
city is being leveled. What are they going to have?
Every city? Really? Because you know what? Biden's going to be in Kiev in just a couple of days. All right? They're going. Dr. Jill and Joe Biden are going to Ukraine. To visit the rubble, I guess? I don't know.
There's no win here for anybody. There's no win. This should have never been allowed to start.
Well, there was a Battle of Kiev, and the Ukrainians won it. Now they're losing in the Donbass, but they've been losing in the Donbass for the last 8 years.
It would have 100% never started if we didn't have a rigged election. Would have never started in a million years. We had $1.87 per gallon gasoline. Think of that, $1.87. Energy independence, and soon we were going to have energy dominance. We were going to be bigger than Russia and Saudi Arabia combined by a lot. We were on the way, going to be very, very soon. We were leaving Afghanistan with dignity and strength, not surrendered death, and leaving $85 billion
Surrender death.
worth of beautiful, brand new equipment, giving it to the enemy. You know, they're a tremendous
I'm not sure what this has to do with the NRA.
arms dealer right now. They sell this,
He just turned it into a Trump rally.
selling most of it, because how
We will make America wealthy again.
much do they need? They don't need that. So
We
they're
will
selling
make
it. They're the biggest
America
arms dealer in many ways, I
strong
understand. On many
again.
of the charts, they are number one. Think of it, $85 billion worth of brand new stuff, helicopters, planes,
Wasn't all brand new stuff.
goggles, everything.
Goggles.
Well, it's a terrible thing. We had completely, I believe that was the lowest point in the history of our country, the
You know, the whole Civil War.
way we got, I was the one that got it down
Oh, wait, no, Afghanistan.
to 2,000 soldiers, but we were going to
Yeah.
keep Bagram. Bagram is this great air base that was built many years
So you weren't going to leave the country.
ago at a cost of billions and billions, but we weren't keeping it for Afghanistan. We're keeping it because it's 1 hour away from where China makes their nuclear weapons. And we left in one night. Everybody was gone.
And the Chinese, and I wish I could do the accent, the Chinese would have just said, you know what? Can't make any more nuclear weapons because they're an hour away.
They left the lights on. Think of it. The lights were all left on. The dogs were left behind, by the way, for those people that like dogs. But we
Still left the lights on.
left, and they don't like dogs. You know that.
You don't like dogs. You know that.
They don't like dogs. They don't like them at all. But think of it. Just think of it. Billions and billions of dollars it took to build it years ago. And now China is going to occupy it very shortly if they don't already. We had a completely rebuilt military with the addition of Space Force. First time in 78
75.
years that's happened after
75.
Air Force. We had the Air Force was the last, and now we have Space Force. And that's going to prove to be a very important group of people, and that's exactly what it's going to be. You know, they smiled when they saw it. They came in. You saw that. The young woman with the very red hair who's now working for MSDNC, you saw that, right? And she said, Space Force, and she started laughing. And the military
We all laugh at Space Force.
just excoriated her.
It's just the Air Force.
There was nothing funny about it, and now everybody's admitting it was so important because Russia and China were way ahead of us in space, but they're not anymore. We had the biggest tax cuts and regulation cuts ever, the history of our country, and we had historic job numbers, 164
By the way, we didn't.
million people, and so much more. We did so much more. Even right to try, you know what that is? You're terminally ill. We gave a person the right to try new techniques, new things, new medicines. And many, many people are now alive and well because of right to try. And they didn't have to go to Asia, they didn't have to go to Europe, all over the world, or go home if they had no money and die. Right to try. They've been trying to get it for 56 years, and we got it done. Passed, actually. We got it passed. Not as easy as you think. Sounds easy, but The drug companies didn't want it because they didn't want it on their record. The country didn't want it because they didn't want to get sued. Many different things. We got everybody to sign waivers, and we have it now, and we're saving thousands of lives. It's incredible what's happened. And what it is doing is telling the drug companies, frankly, upfront and personal, whether or not something works, right? So it's an amazing thing. But as a candidate, I was proud to receive the earliest endorsement in the entire history of the NRA. I tell you what, that was a very important thing.
And $30 million. The NRA gave to the Trump campaign $30 million, his biggest donor. Bigger than the drug companies, bigger than the oil companies. The National Rifle Association donated $30 million to Trump's campaign. Then they went bankrupt. But here they are. Really don't understand how bankruptcy works. I'm sorry, but Chapter 13 should be the final chapter. There is no Chapter 14. You're done. The end.
That was like getting into a great college. You say, boy, that feels good. Everybody wanted it. Don't forget, we had a total of 18 people running. And your leadership, in which I very much appreciated, Wayne and everybody else, they said, we really like Trump. And that was before we were very much enmeshed in the campaign. People weren't sure how that was going to work out, but I can tell you it worked out very well for the NRA. So we appreciated it. We appreciated the endorsement very much. And we got it the second time, too. We got 12 million more votes the second time. How about that? Somebody said, how did you do the second time compared to the first? Well, we did much better the second time, which is true. We got many more. We did. We got many more votes the second time than we did the first, but we got two of them. And if we do this again, we hope we're going to get a third. Okay, that I can tell you.
What?
Thank you. Thank you to the
What? I don't understand. I don't know. Two of them, and he helped to get. I don't know.
leadership. Thank you. And as your president, I was proud to be the best friend that law-abiding gun owners have ever had in the White House. And we've been given that credential. Over 4 incredible years, we appointed nearly 300 federal judges to interpret the laws and the Constitution as written, including 3 great new Supreme Court justices. When the radical Democrats tried to use COVID to shut down gun stores during the pandemic, even as left-wing rioters burned down cities, I designated gun and ammunition retailers as critical infrastructure, kept those stores open. I canceled the Obama administration's exploitation of Social Security data to deny Americans their gun rights without due process of law, which was a big deal at the time. We ended Obama's enormous abuse of power known as Operation Choke Point, under which government bureaucrats pressured banks to cut off services to firearms and the firearms industry. And we are optimistic that in the weeks to come, the Supreme Court will issue landmark rulings affirming that your rights to self-defense does not end when you step outside of your front door. And I think very importantly, as president, I stood up for America's hunters and fishers and sportsmen like no administration since Teddy Roosevelt. He was good also, I will say. We expanded access to 1.4 million acres of public lands for hunting, fishing, and recreation. We gave the American people their land back. It was taken away by government. And we stopped the Obama-era regulatory assaults on hunting, trapping, ammunition, and fishing gear. Everyone here today is united by one incredibly powerful bond. We're all citizens of the United States of America, the greatest country in the history of the world. But we're not so great anymore. We're going to make it great. We're going to make it greater than ever again. Greater than ever again. Right now, we're not respected by other parts of the world, leaders of the world were not respected. We've never been in a position like this, and I think it started with the border, but
I mean, right now, Finland and Sweden literally want to join our club for the first time in history. Our club, NATO.
actually really think it started more with the horrible surrender that we had in Afghanistan. Remember, I spoke with the head of the Taliban and some of the fake news that is here today with us. Pleasure. Why is he speaking to the Taliban? Why? You know, when they asked Jesse James, why do you rob banks? He said, because that's where the money is, right? Why do I speak to the Taliban? And I did. I spoke to Abdul, who's still the leader of the Taliban. I said, very nice way, don't ever kill any of our people.
And Trump pressured Pakistan to release from prison, by the way, which I still don't understand.
18 months we went without one American soldier being killed until that tragic, tragic day. And I think that's actually what convinced Putin to go into Ukraine when he saw what was happening, when he saw the gross incompetence of what took place during that short period of time in Afghanistan. I think that's when he decided to go in, but he would have never done it. It's our citizenship that protects our birthright, our freedoms that belong to every American of every race, religion, color, and creed. No matter who we are or what our background in America is, we have the right to freedom of speech. We have the right to freedom of assembly, freedom of association, free and fair elections, and we have the right to very, very strong and powerful borders. I used to say, without borders, we don't have a country. Now I say, without borders and proper elections, we don't have a country. We have a right to religious liberty. We have a right to the full, fair, and impartial rule of law. But also, we can never forget that we have a right to our Second Amendment, which is under siege, but we will prevail. We will prevail. As our Bill of Rights says in those clear and immortal words,
says,
the right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. In times of hardship, crisis, and turmoil, these core American freedoms have always been attacked by those who wish to turn citizens into subjects and take more power for themselves. But thankfully, our nation has always been blessed with Americans like you. You're incredible Americans in this room. Patriots who know that our rights are given up if we let somebody do the wrong thing. It's very simple. It's very precious. But we live by the hand of Almighty God, and that no government can ever be taken away from us. More than 150 years ago, the NRA was born out of the idea that ordinary citizens should be prepared to defend these incredible liberties. And throughout the generations, that is exactly what Americans have done. Over the decades, tens of millions of people, moms and dads, grandfathers and grandmothers, farmers and factory workers, nurses and teachers, soldiers and lawmen, have been proud, and you know this, they have
card carrying, not CAD.
Been so proud. I see it all the time. People show me their card.
Verbal kitty litter.
Here it is. They've been very proud card-carrying members of the NRA. Sir, I have my NRA card. I say, okay, good. What else is new?
That's kind of being an asshole. They're proud of their card, and you're like, okay, good. What else is new? You a henchman in the 1930s, black and white? Okay, good. What else is new? Hey, forget about it!
You got a lot of people out there. He has his Trump card. Thank you very much. You got a lot of people out there with that card. It's very important. And during that time, you have been led by a legion of American legends, from great General Ambrose Burnside, who you know, to the great American hero Ulysses S. Grant, and of course, that fearless patriot, the late great American icon, Charlton Heston, great movie actor, great movie star, and icon, that you know, to the great American hero Ulysses S. Grant, and of course Burnside, who you know, to the great American hero Ulysses S. Grant, and of course, that fearless, to the great American hero Ulysses S. Grant, and of course, that fearless patriot, the late great American icon, Charlton Heston, great movie actor, great movie star. Down throughout history, time and time again, hardworking citizens like you have answered the call to save American freedom. And now together we are going to save American freedom once again. We have no choice. We're going to have to do it again. Because right now we don't have American freedom. We are going to preserve our heritage. We are going to defend our rights. We are going to protect our communities, protect our schools, and protect our precious children. We are going to secure our liberties for ourselves and for every future generation. In 2022, we are going to vote for tough, on-crime, pro-Second Amendment candidates in record numbers. Get out and vote. Make sure the voting's honest, by the way. Together, we're going to take back the House, we're going to take back the Senate, and in 2024, we are going to take back that great and beautiful White House that we love and cherish so much. And then we're going to make America safer, freer, richer, stronger, prouder, and greater than ever before. To the incredible patriots, people of Texas, God bless you and God bless America. Thank you very much. Great honor. Thank you.
Oh, but he said America was going to be great and was going to be safe. Is it YMCA time? Is he going to do his little stupid dance? We can't do that. We can't listen to the song. It's a good song, though. Yep. There it is. He's going to dance. There he is. He's doing the YMCA. Double cum in my face. There it. Oh, there's the single-handed. Oh yeah, bringing back the greatest hits. All right, that's about all I can take. There. Oh, just all over. I can't take any more of this. All right, kids. For those of you doing movie night, around about 6 o'clock, I'll send something out. I gotta rememberize a bunch of script and stuff like that. I got a rehearsal tonight, so I will see you later. Oh God, I can't watch the news right now. It's just. Okay. Good night, kids. Be good.